Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Every Day is Saturday. I'm your host, Brad Gatto, and normally joined by my co-host, Matt Stahl, but Matt is actually not here today. I have with me Ashley Milot. Ashley, this is your first time on the podcast, Every Day is Saturday, so welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's my first podcast ever, actually.
Well, thanks for stepping in for Matt today. Actually, we plan on having you as a guest anyway. You're planning on being on the podcast anyway. Matt and I were going to co-host it together like we normally do and interview you as you're a part of the Fiat team. Everybody's going to learn that here shortly. But unfortunately, Matt's not feeling super great today. So you get the wonderful task of not only being the guest, but also the co-host of today's podcast.
That's like a really quick promotion.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad. It's actually going to fit really well into the rest of your story with Fiat, right? And we didn't even plan this. This is just kind of how that went. But as always, listeners, we're here to have on. And my intent today, or Matt and I's intent today, was to introduce you to Ashley. Ashley is a team member of Fiat. I'll let her tell her story. But she joined us about a year almost ago.
Yeah, it'll be a year next week on Fiat's birthday.
No way.
Never forget
real?
My anniversary because it's always going to be.
Well, I did, but now I won't. So yeah, joined us almost a year ago. And so we wanted to introduce her to all of you because if you are a Fiat family member and have interacted with our firm in any meaningful way in the last year, you probably know exactly who she is. Because quite frankly, she's doing all the meaningful tasks around client service and everything from trades to distribution of assets to, I mean, you name it, but that's kind of how you started here at Fiat. So before I continue to steal off your thunder, Ashley, tell everybody who you are, a little bit about yourself and kind of what you do for Fiat.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a Twin Cities native. I grew up in Bloomington by the big mall, as my kids would call it. Went off to school in Iowa for a number of years, and my husband and I moved back when we started having a family to be closer to my family. So we're back here in the Twin Cities. I've been in the financial services industry for just over 10 years now, and joined Fiat a year ago as case manager. So on a personal side, my husband and I have two little kids. Ophelia is 6 and Felix is 3. They keep us very busy, of course, as young children do. And at Fiat, I kind of run the show behind the scenes for all of our advisors as far as bringing on new families, making sure that they're taken care of, helping them through the onboarding process, helping them with any service requests, paperwork, updates, all those kinds of things.
All the things that I'm really good at. Ashley and I are actually reading a book together right now that kind of details my personality type and your personality type.
Yeah.
And how, if done right, we could like dominate.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're trying to figure this out. That said, let's dig in a little bit more to the personal side before we go to the business side. So 2 kids, 6 and 3. And your husband's name again?
Francis.
Did you say that before? I don't think it.
I don't know if
said
I
his
did.
name.
No, I don't know.
But you also have some other family members.
Yeah. I have 2 puppies.
2 puppies.
Yeah. I mean, we're basically a puppy gang here at Fiat.
We got a couple dogs.
We got a lot of dogs
in the family. If you're watching this, and if you're not, you should know that you can watch this. Behind us is the pictures of my family, and I have a puppy back there that looks a lot like one of your puppies.
Yeah, Carmen. She is 11 years old. She's an English cream golden retriever. So she's like one of those white goldens. She is a grumpy old lady now, but very sweet pup. And then Percy he's 3, so he's not really a puppy anymore, but he still acts like a puppy. Also a golden retriever, but he's like a dark red one.
So Francis, how did you meet Francis?
We met at a bar. The classic story. This was before all the apps.
This was the classic story. Yes, correct. Before the apps, before online dating.
Yeah, I was working at a bar in Cedar Falls where I went to college, and he came in for a birthday party, and we hit it off.
And the rest is history, as I said.
The rest is history.
And how many years have you been married?
We have been married for 7 years.
7 years. And where's Francis from?
He is from Quebec. Yep.
The second tie to Canada in the Fiat family.
Exactly. Yeah. He is a French speaker from Quebec. So many of you, if you would have met him, he has a French accent and that's his first language. So kiddos get to speak French at home with him. So.
And you speak Spanish.
I do. Yes.
So the kids are getting some English, some Spanish, and some French.
Yes. We keep them busy.
It's way more than I can say for my kids. And so as a family, what do you do for fun?
We love to camp. We have a camper. We bought it last summer after lots of begging on my part or
What kind of
negotiating.
camper? Because that
It's
could
like,
mean a lot of things.
yeah, I mean, it's a pop-up. So like
Okay.
it fits in our garage, but it has heat usually, and it has running water.
Usually.
We had a fiasco last weekend without heat, but so it has heat and running water and all of that good stuff, but it's just a little easier than a tent, but we don't spend a lot of time in it. So we didn't need anything big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So camping is the thing that you love to do as a family. What other
Mhm.
interests do you have?
We love to cook together. My kids love to help me in the kitchen. We cook dinner together most nights. And even though it's a lot longer to cook when they're helping me, it's pretty cute and they really enjoy it.
And you love cheeseburgers.
Yes, I do love cheeseburgers. So my husband and I love to check out different places around the Twin Cities. Um, I don't have Facebook anymore, but I used to be part of a Facebook group about the best cheeseburgers in Minnesota. Something like that exists. So we would, spend the weekend driving around and try new places, new burgers that had popped up. So it's one of my favorite things.
Well, in fact, if you are not already a regular reader of the Fiat blog, Ashley recently wrote a blog for us all about the best cheeseburgers in the Twin Cities area or Minnesota. What was
Twin Cities?
Twin
Most of them
Cities.
are in Minneapolis. I think there's one in St. Paul. But
Okay.
yeah,
Now you have some pretty strong opinions on this.
I do.
And so it is an opinion piece
It is.
that you might believe to be factual.
It's factual.
It was very good. So we thank you for writing that. So a little bit more to the business side of things. So you started with Fiat about a year ago, but you came to Fiat with quite a bit of experience in this industry. So how in the world did you get into financial services, and kind of talk to us about your path?
Yeah. So my path to financial services was through my Spanish degree. Go figure.
Yeah, mine was through youth ministry, yours is through a Spanish degree. So so far, this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So in Dubuque, Iowa, where my husband and I were living, there's Prudential Financial has a big call center there. And they really needed Spanish speakers to help their participants through their retirement questions. So that is how I got started, and hardly use the Spanish piece anymore at work, but stayed in the industry, loved it.
So you never intended to be in this industry.
Mm-mm.
What were your aspirations prior to getting into this industry? What did you think you were going to do?
Well, originally my degree was in family services. I loved the idea of being able to help and guide people through really difficult or monumental times in their life. And when I studied abroad in Spain, figured out that I could graduate a year early if I just switched my major to Spanish, because I already had all the credits. So, saved a year of tuition and switched it. But what I really loved about financial services is that it kind of gave me the opportunity to help people through really monumental and important things in their life.
Yeah.
In the same way as family services, but maybe in a slightly more positive or more uplifting environment. So it works. I like it.
Yeah. So between that Prudential kind of call center and Fiat, what's the gap there?
Oh, a couple things. I was working from Prudential call center. I moved over to being an enrollment specialist, which at the time was super fun. I got to fly all over the country. I didn't have any kids, got to help people get enrolled in their 401k plan, and really worked primarily with retirement plans for a really long time until about 5 years ago, transitioned into a client service manager role, managing the client service program for my former firm, which was interesting. We had about 30 advisors. So it was a little different environment, a little bit bigger. Yeah.
And so what made you make the jump from that role to Fiat a year ago? I actually don't know the direct answer to this. I think I might have a guess, but so maybe a dangerous question.
That's a tough question. We were at a really big transition point in my former firm where I didn't feel like there was a lot of growth opportunities for me, and I wasn't being challenged in the way that I wanted to be. So I started looking around, and I actually saw the Fiat post talking about the Enneagram. The posting for the job that I took with Fiat said, we're really looking for someone who's an Enneagram 1. And I was like, I don't know what that is, but I got to find out. So I went and took the Enneagram quiz, and it was like, you are 97% a 1. And I was like, cool, I should apply for this job. And I think I even sent you a note on LinkedIn and was like, hey, I just applied for this and wanted you to know that I love the Enneagram piece and whatever. And then the rest is history. We just started talking from there.
So you are the only Fiat employee that we found through what I would call normal means right? So you go back to your dating and finding the guy at the bar. That's kind of the way that things used to be before we got into all these dating apps. And now that's kind of the normal story for most people. The normal way that you find new employees is you have job postings. And these days it's mostly online. And so Matt and I did post your position on LinkedIn, and you were one of, I don't want to lie here and say you were the first person. I think you were in my head. Maybe that's repressive thoughts. But I think if you weren't the first, you were one of the first. And I remember Matt and I happened to be at an offsite meeting that day. So once a quarter, Matt and I leave the office and we work on the business, not in the business. And this particular time we were downtown. We were at the Hewing, and then we had taken a lunch at the Monte Carlo across the street. And I remember talking to Matt and I said, not only has she taken the Enneagram and she's the type that we want from a personality standpoint, but she's from Iowa. I totally misread. I got so excited about the fact that there was Iowa in your background. I was dead convinced you were from Iowa.
I know. I don't think I corrected you until after I started.
Yeah, well, that was
scared.
smart on your
I
part.
know.
Yeah, because I was so darn excited. I was like, Matt, this is serendipitous. This was meant to be. We've never actually posted on LinkedIn, and one of the first people, if not the first person, fits the Enneagram, and she's from the lovely state of Iowa.
Yeah.
How
I spent a lot
was
of time there.
Yeah.
But I don't claim it.
So we responded, obviously chose to bring you on board, and you came to Fiat with a lot of experience in the area that you serve. And so over the last year, just give us kind of, again, I know you went over this at very, very high level, but kind of your day-to-day at Fiat over the last year, what that's looked like.
Yeah. So anything behind the scenes, our guys, our advisors are amazing at what they do, facing the client, helping them through some really tough choices and all that. But all of that generates tasks and paperwork. And that's kind of where I take the ball.
Yep.
So you guys, clients and families of ours will make a decision with one of their advisors about doing a Roth conversion, about changing their investments, about any of those things. And as soon as you hang up that call, the advisor will come to me. Sometimes they stop at my desk still and tell me these things instead of the proper tasking channels.
No, I would never do that.
Never. Do as I say, not as I do.
Right.
But they'll task that over to me. They'll put they'll kick it over to me at that point, and then I'm the person responsible for executing on those items.
Yeah. Now, we want to eventually make it such that every person that works with Fiat or at Fiat gets an opportunity to come on the podcast, so that the families that we work with can get to know them on a more personal level, because I think it's really important. Mm-hmm. That said, the timing of when we chose to bring you on is purposeful. So the episode prior to this was the episode where Matt and I kind of went through in detail, basically why this ownership change came into being, and kind of what precipitated that thought for Matt and what that looks like. And so obviously with him transitioning into a non-ownership role and kind of a consultative role for me here at Fiat and maintaining a handful of client relationships, that left a gap for us, because Matt's duties in a lot of ways were operational. Mm-hmm. And so Matt and I were always kind of the two-headed monster, where I was kind of more of the sales guy and he was more the ops guy. Not that he loved the ops, but I loved it less than him. And so he drew the short straw and had to kind of run ops. And so as Matt and I started to think through this organizational change and what that would look like and needing to fill this ops role, we knew that one, it was a need. And two, the question is, do you hire kind of a director of ops, or do you go all the way and make sure that you've got kind of a C-suite level chief operating officer type person for your organization to make sure that everything runs smoothly? And so after a bunch of homework and a lot of thinking, we realized, like sometimes in life, things are like, it's so close to you, you don't even realize it. It's like right under your nose. You ever search for your car keys when they're in your hand? Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what happened. And so we get to announce today on the podcast that Ashley has actually accepted the role as the Chief Operating Officer here at Fiat Wealth Management.
Yes, I have. I'm thrilled. I'm very excited.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
Well deserved.
Thank you.
Big step up from Matt. I get to say that because he's not here. Oh man, that's really mean, because he's not here, not because he doesn't want to be here, because he's sick today, which kind of stinks. We love you, Matt. Different than Matt.
Different.
I won't say Matt. I won't say better. Definitely not. Just very, very different. But you bring a skill set to that role that I do not have. So let's start there. And so what does it mean to be a chief operating officer? What does that mean to you?
Well, what was that meme you sent me? Something about know all the things, do all the things, and be the CEO's best friend.
Yeah.
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 So I just have to do all the stuff and then communicate it to you.
I think the CEO of all the roles inside of an organization that has any level of director or, C-suite, chief operating, anything in their organization, this is the role that does the most work and gets the least accolade for the work. This is the one, the example in that book that you and I are reading together. One of the best examples they gave is McDonald's and Walt Disney, right? Obviously, McDonald's, the most successful fast food chain ever. Walt Disney, you could make the argument, the most successful
entertainment business.
Yeah, I don't know how to categorize.
I don't even know.
Because he's got both the movie side and the amusement park side, but you can't really argue with the dominance of Walt Disney. Both Ray Kroc, the McDonald's guy, and Walt Disney, the Disney guy, had a second person that didn't want to be in the limelight, didn't, have that visionary mindset the Walt Disney had or that Ray Kroc had. But in order to take the craziness that is the brain of a visionary like that and try to put any semblance of an idea or sense to it and have it work on the day-to-day in a practical sense and in a meaningful way, they had to have kind of that yin to their yang, or the ham and egg, as you like to call it. And so the chief operating officer is usually that. I mean, those two guys, it was Walt Disney's brother, was kind of his second person. And then I forget the name of Ray Kroc's second in command, but
I don't remember either.
But that's the point. That's kind of like,
point.
is that you've got to be willing to kind of make everything sing and not really get the accolades. I think of like a movie, and when the credits scroll, like it's like at the bottom of the credits, but it's somebody that really kind of made the movie run.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're reading this book called Rocket Fuel that you've referenced a couple times, and they don't call it a CEO and a COO. They call it a visionary and an integrator. So I really think of my role as taking all of your ideas and your big vision for how you want everything to come together, and then figuring out how we can actually make that happen, making sure that we see the process all the way through and don't get distracted or lose focus, and making sure that the units across Fiat business, marketing, communications, all of those things are flowing and functioning seamlessly so that you don't have to worry about it.
Well, and if I did have to worry about it, it would never get done. So I have 7 more ideas before I start implementing it all, that 8 ideas ago. And that's always what I struggle with. And so having somebody to help maintain the craziness that is my brain is really important. And Matt, to his credit, poor Matt, not his strength, self-admitted, that's not, he, see a need, meet a need, do what you got to do, and suited that role far better than I think most people with his personality ever would. And I think a lot of that speaks to just Matt and I's friendship and how well I think we work together. Maybe he would disagree with me, but just excited to have somebody who this isn't, as well as Matt was and did in that role, it would drain him.
Yeah.
Right. He wouldn't go home energized by the tasks that need to be performed in that role. Whereas I get Marco Polos and texts from you at 8 and 9 o'clock at night because you're thinking through some of this tasking type stuff. And I love it. I think that's awesome. But that's because the major difference between, even if you and Matt have the same outcome relative to what you do and what he did, it brings you energy, and it did not him.
It does. It absolutely does. I get excited about those things when puzzle pieces start to fall in line, and it's like, okay, well, if we do this, it will mean XYZ for these other teams. And that makes sense. It makes everyone's life better and easier. And that, I love that stuff.
That's super nerdy. But in a good way. I kind of nerd out in a lot of different areas than you, but all that to say, I know that I speak not only for myself, but the rest of the team, that we're super excited. Not only that you joined us a year ago and kind of carried the torch from a client service perspective, which you're not letting go of that.
Nope.
Not right now.
Not
right.
Yet.
So as the clients that have gotten to know you, that, relative to processing paperwork, opening new accounts, trading accounts, distributions from all of that stuff, you're still going to be doing that stuff on the day-to-day for now anyway. And also adding in some of these other tasks.
Yeah. And
right. And we alluded to that earlier in the podcast. It's just like I think everybody at Fiat has kind of that. I think that's a requirement to be part of the team. You got to be willing to do right. Cause we're trying to create meaningful experience and have meaningful impact in the families that we serve. In order to do that,
all hands on deck.
And
yeah, I like and.
Yeah. Not or.
No, and.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So Ashley, what we do with the ends of these podcasts is I'm going to ask you 5 fast questions. Like just, I don't have these questions pre-prepared. I haven't thought through these questions. Normally Matt and I do this together. And so I ask when he asks one, so I have like a second to think. I don't have that. So I'm hoping I can even come up with 5 questions in my head to ask you. But I'm just going to ask you 5 questions and I want your gut reaction to these questions. It's just meant to be fun.
Okay. I'm ready.
Okay. If you had your last meal being prepared and you knew it was your last meal, what would you have?
A cheeseburger.
But which one?
Constantine.
Okay. But tell the people about Constantine, because a lot of people that listen to this podcast, 1, have never been to Constantine, and 2, maybe not even stepped foot in the state of Minnesota.
Okay. So Constantine is in downtown Minneapolis. It's like in the basement of the Hotel Ivy. It is a speakeasy. So it's super dark. It's lit literally by candelabras. And they oftentimes have live music. It's like velvet high back chairs. And they just have this awesome cheeseburger called the Dirty Double on the menu. And it's the best burger.
Do you feel like your opinion of the burger is skewed by the atmosphere?
I don't think so, because, well, maybe it is. I don't know. I was thinking I'm like, I've never been there during the daytime. It's always been like an evening thing. Maybe. Okay.
So your family's really into camping.
Yes.
If you could go to any place to go camping, where would it be?
Yosemite.
Any place on the planet, Yosemite.
Yeah, we haven't gone.
Okay.
No, Yellowstone. I mix them up. Yosemite's in California, Yellowstone's in Wyoming. I don't think outside of the state of Minnesota very often with camping.
Okay.
Okay.
So why Yellowstone?
Because
this doesn't count as a question, by the way.
Okay.
Well, follow up to question number 2.
It looks amazing. I've never been there before. Like the mountains, all of that, the geysers. I want to see it all.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing. I have been there.
Okay.
A couple times. And it just make sure you got a lot of time, because it's slow driving and it's the size of a state.
Yeah. Wow.
So there's a lot to see.
I need to wait for my kids to be old
Don't
enough
hit any buffalo
to tolerate that long of a car
Don't hit any
ride.
buffalo. I hope you like the smell of like rotten eggs,
Oh,
because the sulfur.
can I change my answer?
I think Yosemite's. No, you have to see it. You gotta go to Yellowstone at one point. I'm sure everybody that's listening to the podcast that's been to Yellowstone has a story. You don't go to Yellowstone and not come back with a story.
Can I change it? Actually, I think I would go to Arches National Park. It's in like Utah or somewhere down there.
Okay.
That one's cool. It's like with a big red stone.
Okay.
Yep.
Third question.
Okay.
What is one book that you would recommend to our listeners? It can be fiction, nonfiction. It doesn't have to be for any reason. Just a book that you read that impacted you, that you think other people should read.
You're going to laugh at my answer. It's a series.
Oh no.
Harry Potter.
I
love it.
Okay.
I know. It's just.
What about, I've never read a page of Harry Potter. Okay. My wife
that's
reads
so
it to my
sad.
son. And so they're doing the Harry Potter thing. I have not. So tell me why I should read Harry Potter.
So I'm going to give away my age a little bit here.
Okay.
But like I was the same age as Harry as they came out. And so I like.
Well, that doesn't do anything. I can't do that math because I don't know when they came out.
Well, I so identified with him and like his growing up and facing like friend challenges. And obviously I wasn't fighting like an evil wizard, but
Okay.
like, I just loved it. I would wait for that book every single time a new one would came out. I would wait for it to show up on my doorstep and I would read it in one day. I've read them through probably 10 times. I love them.
Huh.
Mhm.
All right.
I'm reading them to my daughter too.
And she's 6,
Yeah.
but they're appropriate for, she can get it.
The first couple, they take a long time to read with the 6-year-old. The first
Yeah.
couple are not quite as dark.
All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Give us one interesting fact. This is question number 4 that most people do not know about you.
I love to crochet.
What?
Uh-huh.
You are an old soul.
I know it's an old lady hobby. I do. I taught myself.
You taught
a
yourself?
long time ago.
You didn't have like a grandma that did it or something
Nope.
like that?
No, I taught myself when I was pregnant with my daughter, and I'm not very good at it. All I know how to make is scarves and hats, but I like I like to do
Well,
it.
self-taught. I mean, I don't know how to make a scarf or a hat. I don't even know how to, I know that's the two needle, like the two.
No, that's knitting. Crocheting is like the hook.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay.
It's
Now
easier
I
to
feel
hide
really
your
dumb.
mistakes on crocheting. Knitting is really hard. I tried, it didn't work, but
All
I
right.
like to crochet.
Last question.
Okay.
What is one of your most OCD habits, however you want to put that you have in your life?
My pantry. My pantry is
The way that it's organized, or what do you mean?
It's like spotlessly organized. I mean, I haven't gotten as far as, I don't know if you guys have seen those videos of the people that like they decanter everything, their cereal, every
Yep.
cereal. I would love to spend $1 million at the Container Store and do that. I haven't gone that far, but it has to be like pristine. And, the kids put the goldfish back and it's like not pushed back perfectly. That's like probably my most OCD place.
I
my
can't believe you
pantry.
have time to maintain that.
Yeah. But when you can't sleep at night, knowing how messy it is, you just make time.
I've a couple times ripped our pantry completely apart and put it back together because I have a lot of those OCD tendencies of things just kind of got to be a certain way.
Mhm.
And it just doesn't, when the rest of your family doesn't share in your desire, it doesn't last very long.
No.
And I've got two boys that basically have a hole, something like a tapeworm or something. They have a hole in their stomach or a tapeworm. And so they're in the pantry all day, every day, and it doesn't last very long. So
Okay, here's what you have to
pantry
do. You have to get baskets for the snacks. Take them out of the package, like the pre-packaged snacks, and put them in the baskets because then they can just grab out of that and they don't have to take anything out.
I do. Yeah. We don't have baskets, but I got like those plastic trays that have compartments, and we do. What do you call it? Decanter?
Well, isn't that like, it's like
Oh,
decanting
sure,
wine, right?
yeah.
Like it makes sense. What else would you call
I
it?
decanter the fruit snacks.
Yeah, there you go.
I've also decantered like sugar, flour,
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff. I've got
That's how
plastic
they stay fresh. Those
tubs
ones, the
for that
vacuum
kind of
seal
stuff.
tops.
This got really nerdy on the
know.
pantry side of things. Well, that was it. That was 5 questions. And Ashley, I appreciate, in light of, unfortunately, again, my fearless co-host, Matt, being a little bit sick today and being under the weather, you stepping up and not just being our interviewee, but being my guest host for today on your first ever podcast.
There we go.
How do you think it went?
I think it went okay.
Is it what you expected?
No, I thought it would be more awkward, but it's more conversational.
We'll just do a lot of editing. It'll be fine. You did great.
Great.
And we're super excited to have you in this COO role, not just for what it means for everybody here internally at Fiat, but the most exciting part is what it means for the families, because I know in order for the families that we serve to have the best long-term experience that they could possibly can, and really to go back to that word fiduciary, as fiduciaries, for us to do what's in their best interest, the boxes that need to be checked have to be checked. We have to stay on top of things. We got to make sure that we're having a proactive type of relationship with our families. And it's just not easy to do. And so having a rock star in place in a role that kind of takes care of that stuff and builds the systems that love on our clients is really, really important. And so to that end, I'm very, very excited to have you in this role.
Well, thank you. I'm very excited to get started and very honored to have the opportunity.
Yeah. She signed a 20-year contract with us. So she's going to be.
Would that even be enforceable? Like, no way.
Who cares about that? You signed it. So guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Every Day is Saturday. Ashley, once again, thank you for joining today. If you want to reach out to us, you can find us on our website, fiatwm.com. If you've been there in the past and you haven't been there recently, really should check it out. The website is completely different than it used to be. There's more resources there than there's ever been. We love to educate the people that we know and the people that are part of kind of our Fiat family. And so we constantly are putting things out there from a learning experience. So everything you need to know, Fiat, FIATWM.com. If you have not done so already, please subscribe to this podcast, because you don't want to miss an episode. We come out with a couple episodes a month. We want to make sure that you get all of them. And we would also love it if you would take this podcast and share it with your friends. It's very, very easy to do. And the people that you love. I'm Brad Gatto. I'm not here with my partner, Matt Stahl, today. We wish him well and hope he feels better. But I am here with Ashley. Ashley, thanks again for joining us. And we will see all of you next Saturday. That's it.